You had just finished using the restroom outdoors, only to turn around and see your campmates frantically running for their lives. Daisy had no idea what was happening, but for safety's sake, she decided to hide inside a cabin. As more classmates crowded into the space, Daisy felt a growing sense of dread, yet no one knew what had transpired until the echo of a gunshot pierced the air. In that instant, everyone plunged into despair. Clearly, a shooting was happening outside, leaving the students trembling in fear inside. But this was supposed to be a children's camping retreat. No one could make sense of what to do next. Daisy's thoughts turned to her younger sister, who was still out there. She urgently asked if anyone had seen a girl in a yellow sweater. With hundreds of kids from different groups present, no one knew her sister's whereabouts. Meanwhile, the gunfire grew louder and more frequent. Terrified, everyone huddled together for comfort. Daisy suppressed her urge to search for her sister, just as someone shouted that help had arrived. Everyone bolted toward the door, Daisy included. The scene outside was chaotic, littered with debris and even fallen classmates. While escaping, Daisy spotted an injured girl nearby. She quickly helped her up, and they ran toward the forest together. Fortunately, after taking only a few steps, Daisy came across other classmates hiding in a secluded spot. She and the injured girl crawled into the hiding space, finally catching their breath. However, the gunfire continued, now echoing from all directions. It became clear there wasn't just one assailant. Some speculated this could be a staged event, but the agonized cries of classmates dispelled that thought. They realized it was time to call the authorities. When they reached out for help, the authorities on the other end said the campsite was in a remote area, and emergency services would take at least an hour to arrive. Despair settled over the group. Daisy, still worried about her sister, called her phone but got no response. Suddenly, a male classmate drenched in bloodstains ran toward them. He warned that the gunmen were armed operatives and identified them as officials. Daisy found it puzzling. Why would operatives fire at the campsite? But pondering questions wasn't an option. Escaping the danger was crucial. It became obvious to all that staying hidden was a short-lived solution. They planned to relocate to another area, but Daisy headed in the opposite direction, back toward the dangerous campsite. She guessed her sister might still be hiding in the tent. Upon arrival, the grounds appeared deserted. Crawling through the tents to stay inconspicuous, Daisy encountered a young boy in a yellow shirt. She tried to take him along, but he refused to move, saying he was waiting for his brother. Daisy urgently explained how dangerous the area was, and convinced the boy to flee into the forest. She also suggested he remove the yellow shirt to avoid attracting attention. Reluctantly, the boy complied, but Daisy pressed on, searching near her sister's campsite. By then, her sister was no longer there. She attempted another phone call but discovered her sister hadn't taken her phone. Suddenly, footsteps approached outside. Paralyzed with fear, Daisy froze and didn't dare move until the sounds faded into the distance. Emerging from the tent, Daisy decided her only option was running to the forest, even though it had become a hotspot for the assailants. She hid behind a large tree as classmates fled from their pursuers nearby. Once it seemed safe, she began running again, but stumbled upon a girl lying on the ground. The girl was gravely injured. Daisy wanted to bring her along but realized the girl's injuries were severe. She called out to others for help, but everyone was preoccupied with their own survival. Left with no choice, Daisy pressed onward. The injured girl was in severe pain. Examining the wound, Daisy found a gaping hole in her back. She quickly removed her jacket to stop the bleeding, but it was futile. More classmates dashed past, fleeing for their lives, as the girl pleaded not to be left behind. Weighed down by compassion, Daisy decided to stay with her. Hiding together, Daisy tightly muffled the girl's moans as an assailant approached. However, the girl's condition continued to deteriorate, and her consciousness began to fade. At that moment, thick smoke billowed in the air. Daisy couldn't tell whether it was released by the operatives or the attackers. She had no time to ponder. She could only comfort the girl, urging her to hold on. Tragically, the girl succumbed to her injuries due to excessive blood loss. Just then, the girl's mother called her phone. Daisy couldn't bring herself to answer. She was too afraid to talk to her. The mother's mournful cries filled the air, but soon she composed herself, and Daisy continued her desperate run for survival. At this moment, her priority was finding her sister. Following the scattered crowd, she made her way to the seaside, only to find the hills already heavily occupied when the rescue helicopter was expected. Daisy planned to stay there, but her classmates told her that there was no more space available. Helpless, Daisy had no choice but to continue running along the pebbled shore to find a hiding spot. Daisy noticed several potential hiding places, but all were already crowded with people, some even clinging to the walls. With no other choice, she continued wading through the water nervously. Luckily, Daisy soon encountered an acquaintance, a boy named Jeff. Spotting Daisy, Jeff motioned for her to take cover under the branches beside him. Meanwhile, gunfire was growing louder, and the killer seemed to have located where the children were hiding. Each terrifying shot made everyone shudder. Among the group was a girl with braided hair who vented her frustration, angrily accusing the lack of rescue plans and wishing at least for messengers to be sent. Just then, a small boat appeared in the distance, but a boy with dark hair stopped the braided girl from running toward it. warning her that venturing out would lead to being discovered. Right then, a group of panicked classmates dashed past them, suggesting that attackers were chasing them from behind. The braided girl decided to join the fleeing crowd, and the dark-haired boy hurriedly followed them to escape. Left under the tree were only Jeff and Daisy, with Daisy now determined to get up and search for her sister. But Jeff told her it wasn't the right time. As soon as he finished speaking, gunshots rang out overhead. Daisy had no choice but to abandon her plan. While waiting, Daisy grew increasingly anxious. Jeff attempted to comfort her and suggested she sing to ease her nerves, but Daisy's singing carried upwards, prompting cries from above, asking if it was her. Daisy quickly identified herself. Upon hearing this, one of her classmates informed her that her sister was hiding 500 meters down by the shore. However, just as they began discussing it, a gunshot abruptly interrupted the dialogue. On a cliff nearby, a killer aimed at Daisy's position under the tree. Frozen in fear, Daisy didn't dare move as the sounds of classmates being killed intensified. Along with screams, more cries echoed as lives were tragically lost to relentless gunfire. Daisy gripped the earthy ground by the roots tightly, struggling to calm her racing heartbeat until a few minutes later, the chaos finally shifted away. Daisy cautiously regained her composure and looked around. Feeling it was relatively safe now, she decided to move toward the distant shore to locate her sister. Jeff, seeing her determination, followed to keep her safe. They walked along the beach and eventually spotted someone wearing a yellow coat. Daisy thought it might be her sister and rushed forward, only to find it was the boy from earlier. He hadn't taken off the yellow jacket, and Daisy was devastated with regret for not bringing the boy when she had the chance. Seeing the lifeless classmates around, Daisy was on the brink of mental collapse, consumed by fear. What now? Jeff, who had just arrived behind her, urged Daisy to flee the scene, but she was already crumbling under the emotional weight. Jeff attempted to soothe her, saying the boy's death wasn't her fault, and reminding her of the urgency in hiding themselves. Otherwise, they might fall before ever finding her sister. Daisy took his advice and tried to stabilize her emotions, but suddenly, a gunshot rang out, and Daisy collapsed to the ground. Jeff rushed forward to help her, but the murderer was closing in, firing shots in the immediate vicinity. Jeff fell back in terror. By the time he regained his senses, Daisy had already taken her last breath. With no choice, Jeff stood up and continued toward the wooden barricade they had passed earlier. Thankfully, just around a bend with scattered stones, a small boat appeared. Jeff raced toward it as other hiding classmates surged from their shelters. Finally, the children had a chance to catch their breath. The person steering the boat wasn't a rescue agent, but a civilian. The vessel could accommodate only a limited number of people, and there was no way to save the remaining hiding classmates on the beach. As Jeff steadied himself on the boat, he noticed a nearby girl taking off her coat, revealing a bright yellow sweater. She was tending to the injuries of the classmates beside her. It was Daisy's younger sister, whom she had been seeking all along. Fate had played its cruel hand, but the story for today ends here. The film's director employed a single continuous shot to amplify the tension and sense of urgency. With minimal exposition, the editor aimed for an authentic portrayal, trusting viewers to feel the raw power of the narrative. The movie draws from true events, though its scope is limited. Those intrigued are encouraged to learn about the Utoya Island tragedy for a fuller understanding of its devastating scale, which far surpassed the film's depiction.